Alright, so this is the project 3 for the group with Abby, Hayes, Jacob, and Sarah. And the problem that we are trying to solve is within the computer science department, there are multiple textbooks that are within the offices of faculty or that students have, and there's no complete listing of where all these books are located. And so the idea is to create a database that will help students be able to search for the books and identify which faculty member the books are with, and then be able to check those in and out to borrow them, see which books are available, and any information about the usefulness of a book. So the first thing that we did when creating this database is we created use case diagrams. And the use case diagrams, we identified that there were 3 diagrams needed, one for just the owner, one for the borrower, and one with both the owner and the borrower. So the first diagram was for the borrower, and here we can search for a book title and reserve a book. Those are the 2 actions that they need to take. And then for the second case diagram is for the owner, and the 3 actions that the owner would take is to check out a book, check in a book, and list all books that are checked out. And then the last diagram is for the borrower and owner together. The actions that they both need to take is to enter a comment, read a comment, and list all books by author and content area. So the next step that we took was to write out narratives that for each of the actions that the user needed to take in these diagrams.
Okay, so we originally started this process, Jacob and I worked on, we split them up for a piece. We thought they had to be as long as the one in the example, but then we got some more clarity on it and determined they really just needed to be about a paragraph each, describing the problem in detail, based off of Sarah's diagrams, or also we could have made like a table describing the interaction between the user and the system. So we kind of did a combination of both and then ended up putting our results in paragraph form. So one of the problems, for example, is how to enter a comment, and that's how it would work between the borrower or the owner. We just made up random characters and made sure to use Kuntz in it. Sally wants to communicate with Kuntz and other borrowers that the book is in awful condition when she got it. She opens the platform and enters a comment, which is now available for anyone to see. If Kuntz wants to leave a comment in the future that the book has been refurbished, so people are more willing to check it out, you can do so by commenting about the condition, which will be visible beneath Sally's original comment. And so we did similar scenarios for each one, just explaining how each problem would be solved.
Okay, so for each of the use case narratives, we highlighted all the nouns, and some of the nouns in this narrative were book, condition, platform, comment, and that's all of them in there. And then we identified those nouns, and those helped us create the ERD, and then identify the entities and attributes. And
you can see a picture of the ERD on the website. Here's a picture of the ERD, and you can see, like, in the one of the use case narratives, book was one of the nouns that we highlighted, and we used it as an entity in that. And that brings us to just the ERD in general and how we made it. First, we should highlight all the nouns and create it, and then obviously get the attributes to make the relationships. And so this is the title entity, and you can see the different attributes in here. It's like title ID, ISBN, content area, number available, and author. And we thought that was a good way to start, just because there can be different multiple books under the same title, and so we put it as a one-to-many relationship. and then you can see the rest throughout here. The request one was a little bit more difficult because we wanted to make sure we could, there was a use case narrative that we wrote about reserving a book, so we thought that request was a good way to do that and have a separate table, because you can't just check out a book without asking to do it before that. So we added that in here, and we wanted to make sure that everything was connected that needed to be. So we connected borrower request with a mini to one to borrower, and then a 1 to 1 with checkout, because one request would equal one book checked out.
Next, we worked on developing the database, which was sort of difficult. So I kind of started before we compiled all of our results and decided on what different entities we needed, just trying to understand how to create a database and what the different tables might look like in theory. So I worked on that and did kind of a prototype, and so then understood the process of it and then threw that out once we all compiled our results. And Hayes and I worked on it for a while and noticed that you can't change the contents of a table and then, resave it later. It'll mess up the relationships and everything else will crumble. And so you just have to delete it, and then it would lead to a bunch of different issues. So we probably redid it, I'd say at least 4 times, and it was terrible. But we got it done, and we made all the tables, made sure that we had every primary key in it, and every column name that we needed, and then we built the relationship diagram, based off of the ERD, determining what type of relationships they were, whether they were one-to-one or one-to-many, and then we populated the database.
So the way we populated the database was pretty easy. We just made up names and different attributes. But it was kind of hard to do because you had to make sure that multiple tables related to each other in different ways. So if like one table contained owner ID in it, I think book contains owner ID, so that had to match when we went to the checkout entity, or request entity, we had to make sure the owner of the book and the book ID matched the actual owner of the book and the actual book ID in the name of the book, or else the whole database would be completely off. So that was a little bit difficult, figuring all of that and clicking back and forth and making sure that we could do that correctly, but eventually I think we made it work pretty well. And then finally, towards the end of the project, we compiled everything into this website. So this is a link to the original assignment right here in PDF form, and I just saved that as a PDF and then linked it to the home page. And then we went into use case diagrams right here, and I listed them right 1, 2, and 3. And I'm not sure if we clicked into all these, but then from each of these bubbles in every use case diagram, you can go to the different narratives, and you can see the highlighted nouns we used to create the ERD. And finally, the ERD, we were just in this, but you can click on each of these rectangles and it'll take you to the different attributes that we made within it. So that's an overview of our website. And then right here will actually be the link to the YouTube video we're making right now. So the last part of this is to just go over what each of us were able to contribute. So overall, we all agreed that we did about 25% of the work each, but we passed off a lot of what we worked on to each other, and just picked it up, would pick it up from each other. So Abby worked on the narratives, the database, and the video. She did a lot of the writing for the narratives. Worked 50-50 with Hayes to develop the database, and obviously is helping with the video. Hayes worked on the ERD, and did 50-50 with the database, the video, and she helped develop the website. Jacob, he finished writing the narratives from Abby, and then helped with the creating or identifying the different numbers, the nouns on the narratives, and then for the ERD, he helped identify the relationships there and how many, and the maximum and minimum mums with that, and then helped with the database and the video, and then I did the use case diagrams, and then helped with the ERD in the same way that Jacob did, and then did the database and video. So overall, about 50 or about 25% for each person. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah. Thanks for this awesome project.
Bye.
Bye.